All right, so it looks like we opened the door to the webinar and people are starting to flow in already, just like that. Everybody is joining in, so we're going to let people roll in. And I wish my bank account would go up as fast as these attendees are going up. Look at that, that's great. So all of you that were waiting, thank you for coming in. And joining us on this Friday. Just like anything else, and all of us for at least a month now have been fixing the plane as we're flying it, and we were getting ready to start 12:30, and we're trying our microphones and fixing how to get attendees in. So we're learning just as you are. So for those of you who are new to Zoom, I know for me, typically when I run professional development, I use a different platform. So I am new to Zoom. And for those of you I've never met, my name is Matthew Joseph. I am the Director of Curriculum Instruction in Leicester, Massachusetts, and I'm going to be moderating today. I'm going to introduce the panelists in a few minutes as we let our attendees come through. But if you are new to Zoom and some of the features, just so that you know, there is a chat feature down at the bottom. And in that chat feature, if you want to just maybe leave who you are, where you're from, and maybe even a Twitter hashtag or Twitter handle so we can see you, because as panelists, we only see each other. We don't see who's here. So I can see that there's 42 people here, but I just don't know who's here. So it'd be great to see, like I see Sylvia, who does a fabulous flow chat for Hack Learning. If you haven't done that, that's great. David Hennel, he's a technology director from down south. So thank you. And also the moderator for hashtag crazy PLN. So it's great because it helps us do this. We have someone from Hawaii. That is so cool. So welcome, aloha. And as a Miami Dolphin fan, I am thrilled that Tua from Hawaii is going to be playing for Miami as well. So we see a lot of people coming through here. So if you could do that, that'd be great. The second thing I want to show you is the bottom of your screen. If you rest your mouse on the video section of the screen, you'll see some icons pop up. You see the participant list. There's two places I want you to look. Those of you who are typing in the chat, you have found the chat window. And the second one is the Q&A. So if you have a question for the panelists, we're going to open up for questions soon. That we're not going to answer for about 20 minutes because we have a couple of things we wanted to share. But if you have a question, please put that in the question and answer tab down below. If you click it, a box comes up, put a question in, and I'll ask the panelists those questions as well. Also, just a note in the chat, one of the things that we were talking about before about learning how to do this video conferencing and learning how to, connect with people is that we're learning a few things, like camera doesn't move, like you don't need to talk into the microphone. The other thing with chats is that there's options to chat to a specific person or to the whole group. So if you type on, oh my gosh, I didn't know Matt was bald, in the whole thing, like we're all going to see it. So make sure if you wanted to chat, because I just saw Christine Bemis is here. We can't do GIFs, so no, we can't put any of your famous GIFs in here, and I know you like to welcome everybody. So if you are doing that individually, you can do that to a singular person or back and forth. So I want to thank all of you for coming here today. It was great, and this is really comes from the spirit of where we are right now, of staying connected and having the opportunity to share and speak with each other, and to have the four panelists here today, the amazing stories that they have to share. This idea that we have and we're participating now came from just a simple idea of, hey, I want to hang out with four cool people and chat, and maybe some others will be interested. And from there kind of took off, and now we're here. And I'm going to talk a little bit in a minute about how Newsela came in, and the partnerships and the power of partnerships and the power of staying connected, I think is very important. So as people continue to flow in, oh, I see somebody here, and I'm just going to put a plug. Emily Van Horn, student at Springfield College. Any of you principals out there in the greater Boston area, I had a chance to read her resume. She is a rock star, so make sure to check her out. And of course, graduating from Springfield College, I mean, come on now, she's gonna be a star. So we are gonna get started. For those of you just joining, I wanna thank you very much. I'm really thrilled and honored to be with four fabulous educators. And today's gonna be about them and their stories. And I'm just gonna be kind of jumping in and out to kind of keep the conversation going. So if I haven't met you before, my name is Matthew Joseph. As I said, I was a principal. I was an elementary school teacher, and then I was a principal for 11 years. And then the last 4 years, I've been a district leader Currently, I'm in Leicester, Massachusetts, about, without traffic, 40 minutes west of Boston, and I'm a curriculum instruction director. So I'm going to let the panelists introduce themselves, and I'm going to have Christian jump in for a minute at the end to kind of talk a little about Newsela, and then we're going to dive into our topic today as participants continue to roll in. So Christine, I'm going to start with you just because that's where you're the first one on my left on the screen, and then we'll go from there.
Hi, everyone. Christine Ravesi-Weinstein. I'm so excited to be here. It's a real honor to be with these other folks. They all do amazing work, so it's humbling just to even be, in the presence with them and to be able to present in this manner with them. Currently, I serve as a high school assistant principal in Massachusetts. So I do, live in the assistant principal life. For those of you who are assistant principals, you can relate. In addition to what I do during the day, I guess, I also am a mental health advocate. I just published my first book through Times 10 Publications. It's called Anxious. And I've been speaking at national conferences and been also writing articles in publications on the side. And so big supporter of advocating for our students that are struggling with mental health in our classrooms, specifically with anxiety. So glad to be here.
Awesome. Thanks for joining. Abby, why don't you jump in?
Hi there. I'm Abby French, and I live in Woodstock, Virginia, about 90 minutes outside of Washington, D.C. in the Shenandoah Valley. I teach U.S. History 1 to 6th graders. I also co-sponsor a Girls in Tech club at our school, which has been really phenomenal. And outside of school, I work with a group of new teachers doing some facilitating and instructional coaching. It's great to be here.
Awesome. Terra, take it away.
Hi, I'm Terra Desiderio. I am an elementary principal in the East Penn School District. I've been the proud administrator there for about 10 years now, in District for 12. So it's been quite the journey. And I've learned a lot throughout my time there and work with a phenomenal team. So I'm very blessed for that. I feel extremely blessed to be on this panel with, much like Christine just said, being surrounded by so many dynamic educators and feeling completely inspired by what they're doing is something that you can't take lightly. Beyond that, I'm a mom of 2 kiddos who keep me very, very busy and on my toes. And I also am the co-moderator of Culture Ed Chat, which I enjoy greatly.
Awesome. And Basil, who is putting me to shame for sure, as he always does with his dapper look. Take it away.
Hey, Basil Moran here, and again, honored to be on this webinar with these fellow educators who are doing great work across the nation. Really excited about the work that Matt is doing and him putting us all together in this as well. So definitely kudos to him. I am an assistant principal in Atlanta, Georgia. And so rest assured that I am going to be staying in my house. Given what I had said, but I will be self-quarantining still and trying to stay safe for kids who need that. And again, the biggest thing, as Christina said, I'm assistant principal and trying to support students and teachers. That's the biggest thing, and remembering why we got into this work. And so if you know me, I'm big about equity and creating equitable opportunities for all students to succeed. And so trying to find that balance in what we're doing right now in this work has definitely been challenging, but we're in education together and we're in this work together. And if you're joining this webinar, again, trying to get another tool in your toolbox to how to continue this work. So thank you for being here and thank you for work that you're doing.
Awesome. So, and last is I really want to introduce Christian, who is a rep for Newsela, and it really talks about the power of partnerships. When the five of us kind of met on Wednesday to talk about how we got to make this happen, we talked about doing a webinar, and I had never done one. I don't have the tools to host one, and I knew that working with Newsela, which is a wonderful product for the last few years, I reached out to them. But I also know, as I see Christian change his camera angle, Basil just moved to Atlanta. You don't have to show him your sweatshirt. He's probably not a Falcons fan. We don't need to, we're just getting started. We're going to turn your camera off in any minute now. But before we do that, tell us a little about Newsela. I think it's just great to have the partnership and allowing us to do this and use your tools.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. And Matt and I have known each other for almost 3 years now. And I've been a partner in a lot of different ways. So really one of the things I won't take up too much of everybody's time, but again, my name is Christian Harchis. I manage the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic regions for Newsela, but also work collaboratively with our other regional managers that cover the entire country. And for those of you that don't know, about 35 days ago, we decided to give the Newsela platform, make it available for any school or district or teacher for free for the rest of the school year, given what's going on with the pandemic. So Basil mentioned, equity being a big concern and access. We hear that. We've actually adjusted our product to be able to provide better printing offerings for those that don't have access to tech. We have an offline mode as well. And like I said, we're giving away our entire platform, including our social emotional learning content, available for free for anybody that wants access to it for the rest of the school year. One of the things that I think we're doing that sets us apart is we're also offering free professional development as well as free solution mapping. So in Newsela, for those of you that don't know, we have a lot of alignments to core curriculum. So for science, we have alignments to programs like STEM Scopes and Amplify. For ELA, we have a bunch of alignments, including Lucy Calkins and My Perspectives and Wit and Wisdom and others. So really helping to provide more purposeful use, I know has been a huge pain point that I've heard from districts across the country. And we're really trying to help you all solve for that. So
Awesome.
I would just say, if you're interested in access to the platform or any of those other offerings that I just mentioned, again, it's all complimentary. And Matt has my contact info and he'll share it with the group. Just
one of the things we can connect after is for participants who have come in today or in the past have been part of the Friday Professional Development I've been running, as I send out a kind of a recap email. Maybe if you can send me some stuff, I'll make sure to include it in all of that. And so if that works for you.
Perfect. Yeah, and I'm just gonna go on mute and listen and learn from the rest of you.
Awesome. So we're gonna dive in. You know a little bit about us. I just want to review quickly. If you're new, just coming. Of course, there's a dog picture. If you're new coming into the chat, if you can use the features down at the bottom. If you want to add kind of some running commentary or things like that, use the chat window. Introduce yourself. Put your Twitter handle in there. If you have a question for one of the panelists, please just use the Q&A feature. I'll be checking that to ask our panelists questions as I'm going to kick off right now because I want to make sure they get their time to share with you. And I know that's why you tuned in. And I'm going to start with one of my first connections with Abby as I saw this video of her with a 5-foot black snake. And it was like, what is going on? It was hysterical. And then I got to learn some of the amazing things about her as an educator and a person, and been in a few chats. And I know you do a lot outdoors, and I know you do a lot of hiking and just outdoor athletics. And now that we're in this kind of quarantine and some of that might be limited, what are some ways that you are coping with this shift, and how can you kind of share with other people what we can do as someone who's trying to get outside myself and our participants? What are some of the things that we can do, and what are things that you're doing?
Thanks, Matt. Yeah, the outdoors has always been, nature has always been kind of an equalizing force for me. When everything gets to be too big or too much or too loud, for me, stepping outside, finding some solitude in nature has been the thing that's helped me reset. As a kid, I would attend nature camp. It was a 2-week camp in Virginia. This is the first summer that in decades and decades, it's kind of its own institution, that it won't be able to operate because of the coronavirus. So, but anyway, going to this camp about natural science has really impacted me. And it always is such a powerful reminder to me about the role of education, because getting back to your point about the snakes, I wasn't born really wanting to go up to snakes. It's something that I was educated about. I was educated at camp. I studied herpetology. I studied reptiles and amphibians, and I just developed an appreciation and I don't know.
And what are you doing now? Are you doing some of that hiking? Are you able to get outside?
I have been able to hike. I've been able to go to, state parks in the area, and our own property. We're fortunate to have some acreage that allows me to get close to the river and the mountains. It's been really, really, really important. And going back to the snake thing again, just that, like, I really, how people relocate turtles on the road. That's just what I do. Okay. I just try to do that. Try to save
Somebody
a black
has
snake
to.
from
Right.
getting run over. That's all. But anyway, it's just that education can actually turn a perspective around. That was
Awesome. So Terra, I know we've never actually met in real life, but we've been building a friendship. I don't see you as one to rescue snakes or move turtles. So what are some things that you're doing to fill your emotional bank now as we are, as we celebrate all personalities? And what are some of the things that you're doing that others might see and say, yeah, I'd like to try that?
Yeah, I definitely am going to leave that to Abby. For me, I have really, my team would know that, like, I tell them all the time that working on balance is something that's always at the forefront of my mind, because I love what I do, and I love working with our team, but I often have trouble disconnecting from that. So trying to find that balance where you recognize that you can't give more than you have left to give, and trying to find time to actually do things like, doing puzzles with my kids like we've been doing. We have never done this many puzzles together as a family. So it's been wonderful. Taking time to go for walks with them outside, or doing chalk on the sidewalk. They're 10 and 14, and they're still enjoying every one of those activities. So it's been definitely, it gives me peace to know that I'm working with them and doing things that are connecting us. And it's giving me time away from working all the time. I know that Christine and I talk about this all the time, just that, like, exercise and making sure that exercise is part of your daily routine. That definitely has given me more energy to do what I know I need to do and be able to give back. So I enjoy spinning on Peloton. And so that's when, we have a competition going, and I think that motivates me too, just knowing that I've got to log those minutes and make sure that that I'm getting in there and getting myself re-energized has shown that I can give more back to everybody during the times that I'm with them. So I think it's just really important to make that time and find that balance, even when you think it's not there. It really is.
Awesome. And you had kind of touched on, I know Christine, she was just talking about some of the exercise. I know you're a runner. I know you do races, half marathons, workout. What are some of the things that you can share that you are doing, but also some of the participants might be able to see and emulate that as well?
Well, one of the promises I made to myself once this kind of stay-at-home order went into place was that I'm going to try to get outside every day. I'm not quite the nature enthusiast that Abby is. As someone with anxiety, I get very anxious in the woods because I don't know where I am and where I'm going, and like I just get stressed out. So for me, it can be as simple as going out in my garage, opening the door and playing hockey with my son for an hour. It could be going for a walk, or it could be something as intense as going on a long run. I call it racing season for myself. I'm not really a very good racer, but I like to run road races, and all the races that I signed up for have since been canceled or postponed. And I'm really struggling with that because it's something I kind of always have like a small goal to look forward to. So what I went ahead and tried to do was virtual races, which is basically where you go out and you do the run on your own. You use, a GPS device like a Fitbit or, an Apple Watch, and you track your run and how long it took you. And then you like upload your results, and then they kind of like ship you your t-shirt and medal. So I'm trying that. It's, obviously you can't emulate the excitement in the rush of adrenaline you get when you're running on the road with hundreds of other people, but I'm trying to do that. So small things, right? Like I can't achieve my lofty goals that I would normally, but every day I try to have, one small goal. The other day I took a walk in my house, just like up and down the hallway, because it was just like
every little bit
out.
counts.
Yeah. And so my kids are like, "Mommy, what are you doing?" And we turned it into a game of Mommy Says, where like I was like, "Mommy says jump," just being silly, but trying to move. So
no. And I think that's important. And that's really what kind of started this whole thing. A week ago, I hosted the Twitter chat, #CrazyPLN, and it was about refilling your own cup and being energized. And from that chat, it was the participation was great. And I really took it in to say, oh, maybe this week we'll talk some more about that. But I'm going to throw it to Basil, because one of the things, as our friendship has grown, I learned that you have just kind of moved. This is new for you in this district. So what are some things you're doing? And I'm not going to say where you live is unfamiliar, but it's a newer environment for you. How are you refilling your own emotional bank in a possible new situation?
Absolutely, absolutely. So for me, I love the hashtag Iron Sharpens Iron. And so for me, I love the work of Dr. Rita Pearson and just the powerfulness of connection. So what I've been doing is connecting again with students, connecting with teachers, and then connecting with my PLN. And again, I think what this pandemic has really caused us to reflect on what is really important during this time. So it's having those lengthy conversations about how can you support teachers, and being real and authentic with people. And I think, as Christine said, is saying that, when you're struggling, admitting that you're struggling, admitting that you're going through a hard time, and then looking for those ways to get support. And so I've really tapped into my PLN at this time, on Twitter, on the Zaz family, on people that we know specifically independently, making phone calls, calling people that I meant to call years ago, and having those conversations and saying, hey, I have time now. Let's catch up, and seeking career advice and seeking personal and spiritual advice. So really for my teachers, what I've been having them do in terms of filling cup is, as an educator, we're so stuck on the assessments and so stuck on, the accountability parts that we forget about kids being human. And so I've really encouraged them to focus on the social emotional piece. And so something we're talking about a lot in our division right now is compassion over compliance. Our kids are really struggling. Some kids, are living in a one-bedroom home with 7 people, and they can't go anywhere, right? And so they're stuck in this place, and everyone's complaining, and there's a lot going on. So how do we help that child be successful? We talk about equity and access. Again, if we have 10 assignments and they've done 6, applaud them for doing the 6 and saying, what else can I do to support you during this time? But I just see a lot of districts around the nation just are so stuck on compliance, and it's about compassion at this time. This is why we all went to education. And so having that compassion and working with our students and realizing that everybody's struggle right now is different. Something I heard the other day was, we're all in the storm, but we all are our different canoes. And so what is everyone's canoe?
No, that's great. And I appreciate that perspective and that learning piece. And one of the things that you said in there, as we start to shift from talking to ourselves, because about ourselves, we have to take care of ourselves first to make sure we can take care of other people, as our panelists have been sharing. And one of the things we talk a lot about in education is our why. What is our purpose? Are we walking in our purpose? And when we do that, we stay connected. But now our why is typically within a building. It's within a vision, a message. But now that we're separated kind of from our physical why, our emotional why hasn't changed. So how are you staying refueled? And Abby, I'll start with you. What is something you're passionate about 3 months ago? And then how are you continuing to keep that fire burning? And I'm going to have all of the panelists weigh in on this question, because I think that's a big piece of this. Terra talked about balance, that we're all here for, I think most of the participants are in education in some form. So we have to refill our own cups, but how are we refilling our educational drive as well? So I'd love to hear from all 4 of you. What is your drive, and how are you keeping that burning?
That's a great question. And I am passionate about student-centered learning. I'm passionate about giving students more leadership, more control. I'm passionate about students recognizing their strengths and being able to identify their strengths and pursue those and their interests, right? And so the way I've kind of had to modify that is just, and one part of that involves reaching out to them, like what you were saying, Basil, connecting with them, making sure that connection is there, that they have opportunities to reach back, to us. But in our instructional online modules that we are coming up with and building, we're doing choice boards on my team. And in those choice boards, I am trying to take advantage of this opportunity to really let kids explore more about who they are, what they want, their interests, their talents, so that they are still taking this time to recognize those things in themselves and pursue them. So there are ways that we as educators, administrators, teachers, parents can help our kids really explore areas that maybe during the rest of the year when things are normal, maybe don't get the time that deserves.
Awesome. And so, Christine, I know you, as you said in the opening, wrote books, Anxious that just came out. So you're very tied into mental wellness, and that's some of your drive. But I'd like to hear what your why is and how you're staying and keeping passionate about that during this time away.
Well, I think for anybody who knows me, my why is pretty out there. Like everybody knows, it's you got to take the risk, because what if it turns out right? It's what I live by. It's what the book is all about. So for me, given that my passion is social and emotional learning and wellness and mental health advocacy, in a selfish way, there's no better time for me to be refueled with my why, because we're living in it. And just, along the lines of what Basil said, it's compassion over compliance. I like to tell people that, like, there's no script to life, right? Like, life is going to come at you, and you may see like that there are certain expectations that society has on you, that you should do this, and that, or you should react this way or have that expectation. And I like to tell kids and even teachers for that matter, that there's no one way to do it. You've got to pave your path and figure out what works for you. And right now, there's absolutely no script. None of us have been through this before. That's what we mean by it's being unprecedented. And so when it comes to people who are, feeling new emotions or sort of struggling, or like, I've never had anxiety before and now suddenly I'm anxious, what do I do? Like, there's no right answer, right? No one's going to say, oh, well, you need to do this or you need to do that, because again, it's unprecedented. We don't have a script for this time. So for me, this is like my wheelhouse in terms of teachers reach out to me, they're struggling with something, and I'm like, don't worry about it. Like, you're doing a great job. I'll help you. I'm here to support you. And it's all about building relationships in education, even when you're in the building. And right now, it's all about building relationships. Like, I understand that your lesson is important to you, but what's more important is that kid knows that you care about them and that they're well and that you're well. And then everything else is secondary. So for me, I'm not struggling with trying to re-energize my why, because I'm living in it every day.
That's awesome. Abby, did you have something to jump in real quick? And then I'm going to go to Terra.
Real quick, I just wanted to say that this is an exceptional time. And in a lot of ways, the opportunity is there to strengthen bonds with students, but also I felt that with my team of teachers. I have felt an absolute renewal and bond in the work we're trying to do. So there are silver linings here for sure.
And if I can just add too, like, I'm big into flipping and looking at the positive stuff. I mean, that's my whole mantra. Like, what if it turns out right instead of worrying about if it goes bad? And for me, I'm not trying to think too far ahead, because I'm a definitely live in the moments kind of person, but everyone that you work with, you're all going to be connected like no one has ever been connected before, because you're all going to have gone through this together. And think about how amazing it is when you get back in your buildings and you see those people again for the first time. Like, I just get emotional even thinking about it, right? And so if the success of a school is based on the foundations of the relationships that are built, this is the basis of amazing relationships, because you all went through this together, and you have to look at it like that. And you all went through it with your students too. And so you're forever etched into each other's lives as a result.
And Terra, I know as a former elementary principal, I see some of the work you're doing and just get inspired. But I also know how difficult it is being away for this long. So how are you keeping your why burning, and what does that look like for those who are trying to do that as well?
I think that what's been said already is spot on, in that this is all about relationships. And our team has talked about over and over about building those strong, strong bonds between home and school, and how do we most effectively and efficiently do that. So during this time, it gave us the gift of time. As Christine said, there are silver linings to what's going on right now, and those very, very strong bonds that we've found between our team members. I know our administrators have never been closer. We work together so closely every day, and having not gone through this, that would not have happened, because we're always working in our silos and getting things done in our buildings. Working with our parents and reaching out to them daily, we're blessed that in East Penn, our goal was that we made those strong connections with families just to start out. On those first 3 weeks, that's all we really wanted to do, was just get in touch with every single family, make sure our kids are okay, and make sure, most importantly, that our parents know that we're there to support them. We don't expect them to be the teacher. That's our job. Like, we need to make these strong bridges so we can help your child do the best they can while they're not in our physical space with us. When we talk about the power of PLN, one of our attendees today said, "I've never been on Twitter," and this is, he doesn't have that adjustment. And honestly, during this time, that has been something that has brought me back to my why, in surrounding myself with people who build me up and who motivate me to want to do more, and finding those like-minded people that it's really, really, really easy to work with. So having worked with all of you, like, there are things every day that come up that you can bounce off of one another and lean on and say, "Hey, how did you do this? Because I'm struggling with it." And know that you're going to get a quality answer that is going to be supported to keep moving forward. So, looking at, I'm sorry, no.
No, go ahead. Keep going.
No, just looking at Twitter and looking at the power of that PLN, looking at the people that we work with through Education Never Dies and through the Zaz family. Like, we just really, those strong, strong connections, and our crazy PLN on Saturday. It's just, there are so many fun things that are going on, but they're really serious relationships and strong relationships that have been built that enable us to be the best we can as an educator. So it takes it always back. Our why is always our kids. Our why, we do this because we need to put kids first, always. And in order to be the best we can be, we need to be surrounded by people who promote that within us.
Awesome. And we were talking before we came on that the last event I went to, Christine was there and Christian was there, was the MASCD event. But the ASCD event that we were able to go to this year, Christine was there and did a great job presenting, but I had an opportunity to see Basil, you present, and you were just so passionate and believed in what you did, and it was moving and inspiring. And I know your connection with people is incredibly deep, face-to-face, eye contact, feeling your emotion. So how are you keeping your why burning now in some that's a little bit more distant? I'd love to hear some of the things you're doing.
Right. So Matt, to be honest, it's been challenging. I'm an extreme extroverted person, and it's been challenging. And so my why is there, let's be real. There were students who were struggling prior to COVID in the school, skipping classes, walking the hallways, not coming to school. And so what I've really realized is during this time, those students are even more disengaged and isolated. It's easy to bob a teacher and not answer an email or not answer a phone call. Those are really the two modes of communication at this time. And so students are really not tapping into that because they feel disengaged. And so for me, what I've been telling my teachers is truly about finding out who that champion is for that kid. And it might not be you, and that's okay. And so, we've been having cluster meetings within our school or department meetings, and there will be teachers that will say, well, I have a good connection with that kid. And so what they'll do is they'll say, okay, I'll reach out to the kid on your behalf. What are some of the assignments you want done? And that's been powerful. And for our teachers to collaborate and to continue to go beyond the contractual terms. Someone has kind of said it before that we're spending a lot more hours than the contractual hours during the regular school day when we were before COVID. So a lot of us are spending 16, 17, 18 hours a day trying to contact students and help them to be successful. But again, this is a part of our why. It's a part of our why, and we're helping students to be successful. So one personal story for me is, as an administrator, it's a no-no to give your number to students. So I've created a Google Voice, and there was one student who was a senior. Out of 7 classes, he's failing 5. And so we had a meeting with teachers, and they really kind of, at this point, because they've tried so hard, they have kind of given up. They felt like, we tried to reach him, we tried our best, he's not going to be able to do it. So I created the Google Voice and I called him, and I just needed him to hear my voice about how, and it's sharing personal stories as well. And I said, I felt like education system had given up on me back when I was in school. And I said, you would never know me today as an administrator if I didn't push past my feelings I'm feeling right now. You can do it. I'm here to support you. And how can we help you to get past what you need to do to be successful? And so again, it's going past all those terms. I could have really put it on the teacher and said, it's your job to contact that student and make it happen. But I said, you know what? No, I'll pick up the phone and I'll call that kid. And so I think those have been the reasons, those have been some of my why and how I've been rejuvenated, and how, again, when we get back from this time, we're still gonna have a lot of cleaning up to do, a lot of cleaning up to do as administrators, as teachers. And so at this point, it's about heart work. We have to lead with the heart, as David is saying in the chat box, and we have to do what's best for kids.
I think that's great. There's a lot to dive in there, and I want to kind of pull a few things apart and throw it out to our panelists, because I agree with you. It's about the heart work, and it's about the care. And I think that's what brought this piece together, is that we have to also take care of ourselves. And one of the things that Terra said in the first kind of segment was about balance. And we essentially are living in our work. Like our offices, all 5 of us are in our homes, and we're working. So when we had an opportunity to go to schools or go to a district office or go to places, when you left, you either put on music or put a radio on or whatever it is, podcast, whatever you liked, or you just sat in silence and you just drove home to have that decompression. And then you were home, and whatever that situation looked like, we wake up and walk into the next room to work or not, or stay in the room you're in and work. So if we're taking care of ourselves, as we talked about in the beginning, and now we were talking about keeping our why burning, and how are we balancing that so that both sides of you feel refreshed? So you're not working all the time, because the computer you might be on is in your workplace right now, because it's in your house. So how are you balancing that? And I'm just going to throw it out to all 4 of you and just jump in. Or how are you creating that balance in your life for work, home, personal, keeping that energy going? Christine, we'll start with you.
I think I think I touched a little bit on this before, in terms of, setting a goal for myself to get outside every day. It's interesting, because I've found that, I can go into work and work a full work day, and I'm just like going, right? Like, and the next thing I know, like, look at the clock and I'm like, oh my God, like 5th period just ended. Like, where has this day gone? I don't have that like longevity when I'm working at home. Like, I can't go that long. I think it's the, and I'm, Basil can attest, I'm no extrovert, right? Like, I am about as introvert as they get. So you'd think that, like, this is a great scenario for me, but it's really not. Like, I don't like just sitting at a computer. And what I've discovered is, like, the kind of like fast-paced nature of a work day, where, like, you just kind of never know what's going to happen, and, like, every day is totally different, keeps me kind of fueled and going. And when I'm home, like, I have to take breaks. So I can only work, like, I've discovered for my own personal sake that, like, if you're going to ask me to attend a Zoom meeting that's over about an hour and 15 minutes, like, I'm checked out. Like, I can sit in a face-to-face meeting for 2-3 hours and be, like, into it and engage. I don't know what it is. I can't do it. So I have to take breaks. So I can work for, like, maybe 2 hours, and then I got to get up and do something different, whether it's, like, go watch, CNN for 5 minutes before I can't stomach that anymore, or whatever it is, right? Eat, get outside for a walk. That's kind of how I'm finding my balance. Or, there's working as an assistant principal, and then there's working with my PLN through Twitter. So I might take a break from the assistant principal work for, a half hour, and do some work, with my Twitter handle and PLN, and, promote some stuff or prepare for a Twitter chat. So it's just kind of forced balance, forced breaks.
No, that's great. And I don't want Christine to be checked out. So just so that we do know, we will end at 2.
Yeah,
But
I'm just out. Like I'm
okay, we just
gone
lost her
at 2
at
o'clock.
2:01.
Yeah, no.
But I do want to let you know before we wrap up, we have about 18 minutes. If you do have questions for the panelists, I do want to jump back into this question. But if you do throw them in the Q&A, and I'd love to be able to ask the panelists this. And I agree with you, breaks. I like to get up, walk, work for a little bit, take a break, get out, and get back into it. Abby, what do you do? What are some things that you do to
The
stay balanced?
balance piece is really key right now, because I feel like there's this huge like innovative, creative thing we're all in right now, creating new structures for delivering materials to kids, creating new systems for this, for teachers, creating content. We don't have a prescribed learning platform that's doing that, like Edgenuity or Actively Learning, I think is one of them, or Learning Actively. But so we are creating constantly, and there really needs to be a sense of balance, stepping away, because like you said, Matt, our offices are our homes, and it's just tough. I get outside, I try to exercise, I try to check in on my 2 sons that are home from college, taking their college semesters, at home now. We're sharing Zoom times, and it just requires a lot of, I think the short breaks, Christine, are really key. I think that that's really key for a lot of people, just even just to break it up just a little bit. I think eating healthy, I know sleep patterns have been completely thrown off track during this time period, but trying to get back to some kind of routine with that. So for me, what was really powerful was in getting outdoors and being in nature was, there's been so much that has changed and has been out of my control, that seeing spring come in, like the routine, the seasonal thing of just spring happening as scheduled, has been uplifting to me. But I think we really do have to be cognizant of how far we're pushing ourselves right now.
Awesome. And I know, just from, again, not bringing in old conversations that were offline, but I hear radio hosts do this all the time. Off air, we talked about this. I know, chatting with Terra or doing this, I've seen your kids come in and be like, how are you balancing it as someone with younger children and different things? How does that work with also being a principal and taking care of yourself? What are some things you're doing to balance it? I know Christine's in that same boat.
Honestly, when we started all of this remote learning, I came up with what I thought was the best schedule on week 1. And by the end of week 1, I was like, okay, that schedule did not work for anybody. So let's try again. So week 2, we created a new schedule. It worked a little better, but we've been tweaking what our schedule looks like every week. And it made me realize how much I keep talking about, like, giving yourself grace and giving other people grace right now. Everybody is doing the very, very best they know how to do. And we keep talking about this. And that's so important to keep at the forefront of our minds. We're doing the best we can. Our kids are doing the best they can. Our families are doing the best they can. And we need to give people grace and meet them where they're at. So I think just giving yourself permission to continue to be a work in progress and keep making those changes and be very fluid with what you're doing. I agree that, like, we definitely, as soon as I'm off a meeting, especially if it ends early, I'm closing the computer, I'm going up to see what the kids are doing, taking a walk, getting a drink, and then just kind of change of scenery. Keisha mentioned something great. She said, the Zoom fatigue, and in the chat, and it's true. Like, sitting here and talking to people, and actually I am someone who watches people's emotions. So seeing everybody's facial patterns and what they're doing, I'm like, oh, they're checking out. Oh, that's something going on there. And I'm constantly watching about what's going on. And so it is exhausting to keep watching that, and giving yourself a break. So I think just finding that fine balance, giving yourself tons of grace, and that you're doing the best you can, just keep rolling forward with it.
Well, and Terra, I had a follow-up question actually from the Q&A, and then I'm going to go to Basil with a different question. As a principal, I know the kind of calls I would get. I know the texts when we were in school and we had a structure. How are you managing texts or phone calls or emails with managing self-care and managing a family? How are you managing that?
I find that I do better when I know my team is doing better. So if I know that everybody's taken care of, I feel better about that. So I truly, and this works for me. It was finding what works for you specifically. And for me, it is just like at work, I have that open door policy. So call me, text me, whenever you need me to be there for you, I'm going to do that. And it makes me feel better as an administrator and in that position. So again, it is finding balance, but it's also finding what makes you feel okay. So me being available and putting myself out there to say, hey, please call me, please text me, please email me, whatever's best for you at whatever time that is, that's where I feel better when I do that. And that works for me. Not that that would work for everybody, but that makes me feel better. And it feels very connected to my team. We meet once a week on a Zoom call, and I look forward to those weeks just because I get to see everybody's faces. So looking at their emails and different things is not nearly what I realize. I am an in-person like to be there with my team and engaging with them. So doing this remotely would not be my first choice. I realize that for sure. I love being there so I can actually engage with them and know how they're feeling and what they need. So I've tried to still keep that bond while we've been from home, and making personal calls to them and making sure that they're doing okay. Doing our weekly check-ins gives me huge amounts of information. Just they answer a check-in thing on Monday mornings for me, and I'm able to reach out when somebody says, hey, I'm really not doing okay. And just that being able, but again, that's built on trust. So they need to answer that. They need to answer that honestly, and in order to do that, we had to have that trust down there first.
No, that's critical, and thank you for sharing. And Basil, I'm going to ask kind of a two-part question, kind of piggyback on what we were talking about. How are you creating balance? And then a question from the chat was: is there anything that you have experienced now in your work or in your life that you would keep after we are able to go back to school, or a process that you have that has worked for you in kind of the quarantine stage that you feel like you can keep moving forward?
Absolutely. So I'll start with.
Can I just jump in one more second? Sorry, just because in case people start closing out, just we had a request that if you, because the chat is flying, if you had an opportunity to just put your Twitter handle back in. A few people are new to Twitter that are in here today, and just ask. So if you could do that, and then we're going to close in a minute. I'm going to ask everyone to talk a little bit about. So if you have that opportunity, thank you for that. So Basil, take it away. Sorry to cut you off.
No problem. So I think for me, my school is very academic and they're very rigorous in terms of academics. And so for our teachers, this time has really made them look at some of the SEL components that I started at the beginning of the year with professional development. And to be honest, some of my teachers weren't trying to hear it, but now this time has really made them have to concentrate on that. And so for me, this is something that we're definitely going to have a piggyback to when we get back. And how do we continue to, yes, hold students accountable and to make sure that we have their academics where they need to be, but how do we address the social emotional learning and continue to have that be a part of what we're doing every day? I think for me, going back to the question you asked Terra about just schedules, I'll be honest, as an AP, a lot of times I go in and I make a schedule for the day and I get blown out of the water about whatever's going on. And so there's a lot of times I still feel like that remotely. I had a schedule, I had something I was going to do, and then you just have like 2 or 3 Zoom meetings added on, or a parent had a huge concern that they needed to address that day, where they're going to call the superintendent's office. Like things still continue to happen, even though we're in remote learning. So there's been times that I love the word that Terra used was have to give yourself grace. And give yourself permission to say, today didn't go how I wanted it to go, but it's okay. And then in prioritizing, I would say calls and text messages and emails. I prioritize it based on the need and what is really urgent. I'm over AP testing, and we have that coming up in 2 weeks. And so that has really transformed from me administering the test to them all being online. And so there's a lot of students who are worried, a lot of parents who are worried. So fielding those emails and answering those emails. But then I'm on the real side, people are sending me emails like, when are we going back to school? Well, no one knows the answer to that question. How do I get transcripts? We haven't posted the final report cards. So how will we give you transcripts? So there's certain things that I've fielded and kind of put on the back burner that I know we're not there yet. But again, when I'm able to set aside a time of the week or 2 times of the week where I'm really answering emails, I will get to those as I can, but try to get to things that are really relevant and pressing right now. So again, I think the biggest thing is having grace. understanding that, again, this is like Christine said, an unprecedented time. Everyone's kind of going through. There's no one you can call for a manual and say, hey, how do I get through this? It's just, you got to make it through. And I would say, listen to your heart on the decisions that you're making. And as long as you feel like in your heart is right and you're following what's best for kids and doing what's best practice, anyone can forgive you for that.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that. We have about 8 minutes left. And last Sunday when I was going through, like, who were some of the people that I wanted to connect, the four of you were on that list. Kristen Nan couldn't be here today. If you had an opportunity to follow her, she's a fabulous teacher. She's actually teaching class right now. So she couldn't be a part of it. But all four of you are amazing leaders. I wanted you to be a part of this because of the people will learn so much from you, as will I. Is there one thing you can leave people with today? And we have about 6 minutes left, not each, but maybe about a minute each, so we could do a quick wrap up. Maybe something that you wanted to share that's really special, specific to you, and how people could connect with you, either some of the professional work you're doing, or I know Christine has a book out, and all of you are amazing podcast hosts or speakers once we can do that. So any of you watching, book all four of them. So Abby, we'll start with you. One thing to leave everybody with.
I think this is a uniquely, just a really important time period where many of us we've kind of gone into the realm of the ungrading realm, right? With work that's being turned in, and the importance of feedback as a tool for improvement, that perhaps the grading focus maybe has an opportunity to be looked at, and to realize that a lot of what kids need is perhaps less percentages and points and letter grades, and more interaction and feedback for improvement on their work and on their learning, and having them as a real partner in that.
Awesome. And you're on Twitter, and we'll send out your Twitter handle, or you throw it in the chat. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Christine, one thing to share.
I would just say that, I think that the most important thing that we can do during a time like this is to not make any assumptions.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really, really important for us to ask questions, both of others and sort of ourselves too. I've heard a lot from people who've reached out to me being like, I don't actually have anxiety, but like, I'm feeling really anxious. Like, I don't know what to do. And I think, like, before people start sort of self-diagnosing and saying like, oh my God, I have anxiety now, like, you got to understand that everything is sort of circumstantial. This is not a norm right now that we're experiencing. So I don't want people to start like pushing panic buttons. I think it's really important for people to ask questions, like when they reach out to me, I think it's great. We end up having a conversation, and I can kind of ease their fears. People are like, oh my God, I'm going crazy. Like, no, you're not. Like, it's fine. We're all a little bit anxious. Like, it's okay. It's okay to feel that way. And the other thing I want to leave people with is like, it's okay to press reset, right? Like, that doesn't mean that you failed at something. It doesn't mean that things aren't going well. It means like you just got to hit reset. Just a specific example. My anxiety has been kind of all over the place, and sometimes I'm sleeping at night and sometimes I'm not. And last night was one of those nights where like I woke up and I just couldn't fall back to sleep, and I had a choice. I could keep fighting it, or I could push reset. I decided to push reset, got up, did some work. I'm fine. Like, it's okay. It doesn't mean like the world's coming to an end. So I think we all just got to like sort of take a deep breath, ask questions, not panic, and be okay with hitting reset.
Awesome. That sounds great. Terra, what do you got for us?
I love what Christine just said about pressing reset, and just honestly, what I think is that this is heart work, truly. Somebody said in the chat before, we are all in this because our hearts are here for kids, and our hearts are all in the right place. And you guys, I see the people who are here, amazing educators who truly do everything in their power to do what's best for kids. But you need to be true to yourself too. You need to make sure that you are doing things that you believe in. And if there's something that you believe in that's not being done, don't fear following your heart and doing that. One of the best ways you can do that is to find your people. Find people who are like you and surround yourself with them, because negativity is a choice. The way that we choose our lens every day, and ability to do that from minute to minute, certainly there's going to be things that you your choice to live there or not. And whether if people are bringing you down all the time, you do not need that. So find people who truly motivate you. And the people on the panel today are some of those people for me. Just, motivate me out the wazoo. They're my go-to people. And, just having the ability to be authentically you and keep running in the direction of your dreams and your passions is just so important. So know that you can do that. Now's a great time to be looking at who really does build me up and who really does motivate me to want to do more and reach higher. And surround yourself with people like that, because they are there. And it may take a little while to find them, but once you find them, it is the most amazing feeling, truly.
Awesome.
So just keep being you.
Awesome. All right, Basil, what are you leaving us with?
All right, I think I bring it home with, again, you stated, this compassion over compliance. No matter whether you're a superintendent or whether you're a para, put yourself in our students' shoes right now and how they're feeling. I mean, we have some high school seniors who are not going to have prom. They might have a virtual graduation. I mean, there's a lot of different angst that's going on within education, but it doesn't matter what part of the United States or international you are, we're all feeling this and we're all in this together. I would say find a way to reach all students, not just students who were going to be fine anyway or have tutors or already had a 4.0. Find students, find that student in your classroom that put their head down when we were pre-COVID. Find that student and say, hey, I'm here for you. How can I support you? And so find a way to reach all students. And as everyone on this webinar has said, tap into your PLN, your professional learning network, and just find a way. And if you don't have one, create one. Create one and find people who are gonna refill your cup, because you can't work on an empty cup. Find people who are going to boost you up and encourage you and give you real talk when you're down, and give you those opportunities to build up. But again, we're all in this together, and understand that we can't do this by ourselves. We can't do this by ourselves, and we need everyone in this work, and we will come out alive on the other side, but we got to make it through.
No, that is awesome. And that's, one of the things that I would leave you with, one of the things I keep saying is we keep hearing social distance, and it's more physical distance. We don't need social distance in the sense that we need to stay connected. And that's what brought this about. That's what has brought a lot of things that we've been doing, is stay connected, be inspired, and when you're not, have that group around you to reach out. So we have 1 more minute left, because I want to respect everybody's time and make sure Christine doesn't check out. So thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you to our amazing 4 panelists. I don't have a smooth way to do this, but if the 4 of you could stick around for a minute after everyone's gone, just say, chat it for a minute. Stay connected, everybody. Actually, this comes from something I do every Friday at 1 o'clock, a remote learning nugget for Leicester Public Schools. I'll continue to send that out if that's something you want to join. It's more of a professional development time, but at the same point, I think from hearing and reading a little bit of the chat, I've been trying to stay focused. People have liked this, and maybe we'll do something like this once a month to stay connected and have people share some experiences. So I want to thank the 4 of you for stepping up and being a part, and for all of the people who signed up, and Newsela, of course, for really having that partnership. And it is 2 o'clock, and I want to end on time. And I want to thank all of you for joining us, and have a wonderful weekend. Short promotion, because I have about 40 seconds. Tomorrow at 7:30 a.m., hashtag SatChat. I'm going to be running that. Then there's some great chats this weekend, Saturday at 10, Crazy PLN at 10 o'clock, and Hack Learning at 8:30 on Sunday. If you're new to Twitter, those are 3 to check out. So have a great day, everybody. Panelists and Newsela, stick around. And thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.